Sup, y'all? I'm your host, Taylor Onion. This is Hang Time. We are back this week with a Bloom Pod alum, a two-time Bloom Pod alum, at least two times, Dr. Lacee Carmon-Johnson. Dr. LCJ is a multi-talented woman in sports, currently serving as the Director of Basketball Advancement for the Toronto Raptors. It's been almost 2 years since we last caught up. Dr. Lacee, let's get some hang time. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me again. I think this may be the only podcast where I've been a repeat offender, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, I think we should keep it going. We'll just keep coming back every so often. Hopefully,
Couple of years, we need to check
yeah.
in. We need to check in.
So as of 2 years ago, a lot has changed since then for both of us. I had reached out to you, what, end of last week, I guess it was, seeing if we could re-air the last episode that we did, and you said, a lot has changed. Let's just catch up again." So at that time, you were still the manager of basketball advancement or the manager of basketball operations. Now you've made this move. What has that change looked like for you? How have your responsibilities shifted, grown, changed, all the above since the last time we caught up?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when I was in the manager position, our department was wellness and advancement. So our leader was our sports psychologist, and we combined with our wellness department. So our mental health clinician plus the sports psychologist, myself, a little bit of our coordinator who was also, I think, doing like team player services and basketball advancement as well. So we had a bigger group. And since then, I've now taken ownership of my own department. And that's been like a pretty cool learning experience. Obviously having someone to report to you, but then also having to kind of manage up and deal with things at a much like higher level now. So the balance of where to delegate, what to do, not always being in the weeds of every single thing and really helping to elevate who was a coordinator. Now she's a specialist, helping to elevate her as well to continue to learn and grow in the space. And so it's been a good learning experience. It was quite interesting because the shift happened right as I came back from maternity leave.
Mm.
So imagine getting a new coach. I came back from maternity leave and there were 13 new players. There was just a lot of change within the organization. And then it's like, oh yeah. And now I was able to grow into a bigger role as well. And so a lot happening all at once, but always grateful for the opportunity.
That's the way it goes typically is when it rains, it pours. They say it's not just the one thing. But I want to ask, so a lot of people, when we think about career trajectory, career development, these kinds of things, you're of course thinking, well, yeah, at some point I'm going to be a boss. But we rarely talk about the transition from being on someone's team to being a leader of that team. So you touched on it just lightly, but I'm curious to know, I guess, just generally for folks who are thinking about, I want to be promoted, I want to move up, I want to do this, this, this. What were things as you stepped into that leadership space where you're now overseeing people, having folks report to you? And I think you had done that before, at least with GAs and
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interns and all that. So, but can you share, I guess, from your perspective, what are the things that we're not thinking about before we step into those roles? What makes it so fun, challenging, hard, all the things?
Unique, different.
Ye
Oh yeah. Um,
Yes.
I think the biggest things is when folks move into leadership spaces, like they forget about what they needed when they were once in those roles.
Mm,
And I'm really, really huge on reflection, right? So that's just something that I naturally do, and to go back and to think about, okay, well, did I enjoy the monthly or the quarterly check-ins, or did I desire more, or how can I make sure that I'm serving the people that are reporting to me? Like how can I make sure that they have what it is that they need, and actually like catering to that. And we forget about that because you just get into the weeds of like, all right, I now have to do this, and like this is the next step, and we have to move and shake, and and I want to reimagine or redefine like what our department is and make sure that we're all on the same page and get that clarity out across the organization. And like those are like big things that need to be done, especially when you're moving into, you know, a new leadership role, where there has been a little shift in like what, not necessarily what the role looks like, but the fact that like it no longer reports to another person. And so um that was like that was super important for me. And then just really understanding like what does she want her growth trajectory to look like? Because you know, not people don't ask you that. People
Mhm.
just they assume like, oh, well, maybe you want to be promoted. Well, maybe she doesn't want to be promoted, or maybe she does, but she's more interested in moving into this lane versus this lane. And so, how do you continue to elevate or provide opportunities of growth for that person, those people as well? And that's just we're always thinking about ourselves and we don't think about the other folks. And I'm lucky that we actually share an office space,
Mm.
so we can have way more informal touch points versus like we still have like very set like calendar meetings as well, but we have more informal touch points, which I think has been like super helpful in elevating both of us. And like she knows that you can come to me and like let me know like, hey, I'm not doing this, or I need more of this, or you know, you said such and such, but maybe we need to look in, you know, and the same way that I would like to give feedback, I would like to receive feedback as
Mhm.
well so that we can continue to grow together.
I think the intentionality of, like, you have to be intentional to lead, but it's also exhausting to be intentional when you lead, because just as you said, you're thinking about yourself and how can I, bring my best self into this space and do all these things and make sure the department is being reflected as it should be, but then also making sure you're showing up for people in the ways that you've wanted the best leaders, and really all leaders, but especially the best leaders of your life to show up, at times when you feel like they when you were growing and wanting to be promoted and all those things. So the last time we spoke, we also had talked about you making the move from the college space into the pro space. You've been in the pro space for a minute now. And when I listened back to the episode the other day, something you said was, at the beginning of that last semester you spent on campus, you went in and said, "Look, I don't know where I'm going, but this is it for me on campus. I'm moving on to whatever's next." So now that you've been in it a minute at the pro level, I guess what maybe are some of the biggest differences that you see from those 2 levels? Do you still, I mean, obviously things worked out from you saying that this is my last semester and I'm gonna move on to
Yes.
to something
I
else,
know.
but
I still think I talk about that moment like, often with people. I still think about the fact that, like, when I initially said it, like, I wanted to reel it back in so quickly. Um, but I also know that the type of person that I am is, like, when it even if I have it in my mind, like, once it's there, that's what I'm doing, regardless of if I've shared it with other people. I do think that sharing with other people helps to hold you accountable,
Mhm.
in those spaces. And I remember getting to May and it was like, "Oh, man, I still don't have a job, but, like, I'm not gonna be here, so, like, I gotta figure something out," or, like, what that setup
Right.
is gonna be in. Yeah, so I think some of the biggest one, I'm not saying this with any shade to the college space, but ooh, man, I remember when I left on June 30th, and then July 1st, NIL went into action. And I was like, you know, I don't know if I would ever like consider the college space again until like NIL kind of gets itself in order. I'm thinking it might take like 2 or 3 years. Here we are, 4 years later. I still feel the same way. NIL needs to get itself in order. But now I think we're also seeing some of the how it's affecting the trajectory up and how it's affecting the trajectory down with athletes. And I feel like that's also something I could probably talk about all day from a variety of different places. But I think one of the biggest differences that I see between the college and the pro space is that in the pro space, everyone is hired as an expert and you have so much more autonomy
Mm.
to do what you need to do to make the team successful. Whereas in the college space, you know, you have to go through you want 3 new pencils, you have to go through 45 loops, 18 hoops, through do 3 dances just to get to 2 levels up for them to tell you, well, you need to come back and say why you need only one of those 3 pencils.
Mm.
And that was you just didn't have the touch point, with the higher ups, with, like, folks around you. Everything just seems so much more siloed, I think, in the college space, and that's definitely one of the biggest positives, but it's something that it was a bit of, not, I wanna say, like, a bit of a struggle, but just, like, trying to understand the landscape, because when you have not grown up in this professional space, when you didn't start as an intern, so you haven't seen what that looks like, you kinda come in and you have a lot of questions, or sometimes you don't even know what questions to ask.
Yep.
And that's the thing that a lot when you get hired, they're like, "Oh, well, ask whatever questions that you need," and it's like, "But I don't quite know what to ask."
Right.
So whenever we have any new hires and they're coming in, like, I'm just almost like word vomit sometimes. Like, I go overkill with the things that, like, I wanna share, because I remember what it's like to be in that space, and I also know
Mhm.
what it's like to be an American moving into a different country.
Yep.
It is a, yes, it's an American league, but it's still, we're still live in a different country. So, like, navigating that as a parent, a partner, like a lifestyle, all of that was very different as well.
Gosh, there's so many changes that happen all at once, right? Like, it's not just the move from the college space, it's from college to pro, it's from America to Canada, it's all the things.
From 2 kids to 3.
Right, exactly, and then a new coach and, all the new players and right, all the things all at once, of course, which is how it goes, but how has your experience been? So, working as a woman in sports in the college space, working as a woman in sports now in the pro space for has it been, what, 3 years with the
4,
Raptors?
4
4 years? Oh my
seasons.
gosh, okay.
Yeah.
So, 4 seasons in, what have been some of the, I guess, things you've noticed in college? Again, you just touched on this, but I'm wondering if the the bureaucracy of higher education plays into some of those hoops and silos and things you have to jump through. But I guess I'm curious to know specifically from your perspective as a woman in sports, working in sports in a male dominated field, which sports in general, but also a men's league, just broadly, what's been your experience in that space?
I think the biggest positive is I came primarily from the world of football. Yes, I worked with all student athletes. Yes, I did a variety of, other roles, and had responsibilities in with all sports, but I spent the majority of my time with football. And when working with football, I think I could count on one hand or less how many women that I worked with.
Mm,
Um, at the previous university, and I think at the university before that, it might only been like 2 or 3 of us in total. So, coming over to the NBA, which in my opinion is a bit more progressive when it comes to having, like, women in spaces, and not just as an administrative assistant or as a coordinator of community or something, that's more public facing, community facing, I should say. We have women in medical. I mean, all over medical, dietitian, like physios. Um, we have, like, women in our, like, culture community group, women in PR, women in player development, team services, women in coaching operations, women in scouting. Like, we're in basketball operations, equipment, like, literally all over the place. And that has been so cool to see. I remember the very first call that I had with my team when I started with the Raptors, and it was 4 women and 1 male, like, within our group. I
mm,
was like, "Wow, I've never been." I don't know if I've ever been in an apartment where we had this many women and where the women outnumbered the men, and on top of that, we were all Black women.
mm,
So, I was truly floored,
right.
and it was just such a great experience, a great opportunity to be able to, like, walk into an organization that, that truly, continue to elevate women. And our president, I don't know, I'm not sure exactly how long he's been here, but I think there were only 2 women when he first started, and we have upwards of 20 plus now.
Wow.
So, that's pretty substantial, and that's on the basketball side. That's not including the business side. And that's what I think is very unique.
Do you think that is a function I'm thinking of specifically NBA versus NFL. Do you think that the NBA having more women and kind of being more progressive in that way, having more women in various roles is a function of, I guess, the equivalency of the WNBA? Like, women and men
Like
both play
having a different
basketball.
league?
Yeah, like,
Um,
there's no true football league necessarily at the same level for women, obviously.
that's a good question. I've never thought about it. I mean, there are definitely some women who have like played in the W who are part. We have one who's on our staff. I forgot to. We have a coach. We have a female coach on our staff as well.
Awesome.
Um, but I guess, like, it's possible that that is the case, but I also look at other teams, and there are a lot of teams that don't have nearly as many women as we have as well. So, I mean, it's not like we have a W team that's what we do now. They
Yeah.
haven't started. They
Right?
haven't started,
Exciting.
but yes, it's a very, very exciting time in Toronto. The appetite for women's sports here is just top tier, and it's been really cool to see all of it come together, literally from scratch, from the bottom up.
Yep.
I think the president, she used to be one of my colleagues here, but she mentions how it's like running a startup
Mm,
and what that looks like. But yeah, I guess that is very, very much so possible. I just also think that like football's been around for a while, and in theory, it should be much more progressive. And I see in the college space, there's a lot more women who are moving in, but again, they're moving into like recruiting roles. And so, what is that saying like about your program and how you value women?
mhm. Yeah, that's a podcast for another day to take that
It is.
to
It
take
is.
that deep dive. I wanna take time to jump more into kinda your role and the impact that you have within the Raptors, but I'm also curious, we just touched on this, so the Toronto Tempo, coming is it this year or is it next year?
Next year.
Next
Next
year,
year.
they'll kick off officially. What, if any, crossover will they have? Like, are the 2 organizations kinda work together, the Raptors and the Tempo, or completely separate? But
Yeah, we're 2 completely separate entities.
okay.
Obviously, we do have, some folks who are a part of the Tempo who have had, um, who have worked with the Raptors in some capacity or another, throughout their career, and so there's definitely, like, the support. Absolutely, there's support from everyone, like, we want to see this team succeed, so it's like, "How can we help you? What" are there conversations that you wanna have and how we do our specific roles, or are there contacts that we have who may like if there's a job open for the tempo that we may have some folks that we can recommend over in that direction. They've been doing a lot of community initiatives to really just get the team name out there, the story, the merchandise, all of that. And there's definitely, I think, some probably behind the scenes of like the different levels of support, but they're two separate entities.
Okay, very good. It's been so much fun. Obviously, it's just been fun to watch women's sports and the growth that's happening right now anyway, and the attention that
Yes.
so far behind, but also is so
It's
great.
my kids, we're in Indiana, they're like, "So we're not gonna go to a Fever game?" I was like, "Oh, I don't know if we're gonna be able to make it, I don't know if the timing will work," and, they ended up getting to go, and it's like, that's become the norm, like, we're in a market where there's a women's team we wanna go watch.
Yeah, it's been so cool. And just to see also the like Serena Williams, I think, is one of the investors for the Tempo, and
Yes.
so to see these other like big household first name only women's athletes who are, kind of investing back, but for the future of women's sports is amazing as well. So anyway, I could obviously spend all day talking about just that, but let's talk about your role and how you like what you're doing in the department and really the shift that you've just recently had. How is that contributing to the overall culture of the Raptors? How is it contributing to the success of the team on the court? How do you see, I guess, those things translating?
And I think one of the first things I always say is, I'm not coaching to put the ball in the basket, to dribble it, to shoot it, to pass it. That is not a part of what my role is. But do we have connection and collaboration with literally any and every department within our organization? Absolutely. I like to think of a lot of what we do as the connective tissue because we are, so forward facing with the player, and it's making sure they're where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there, but then also helping to identify growth areas of potential for not just on the court and off the court, but also their brand, their community, their philanthropic areas, and really just getting to know them as people and how we can continue to elevate that, um, from a storytelling perspective, from a brand perspective, from their platform that they have now, and ultimately growing into what they're going to do next. And so it's super cool to, I think, be in that space because there's a lot of misconception and a lot of inconsistency across various teams as to what, player development is. Some player development includes like the family aspect of it. It includes a bit more of a concierge service, in supporting the players in that regard. I think where we different is that while we have like those avenues for the players as well, that's not what my role consists of. Our department really is looking at the holistic growth and development of the player and looking at like true programming options and initiatives. And when I say programming, I don't mean we sit them in a room and we put a PowerPoint in front of them. That is, I'm very unconventional when it comes to programming. Programming could be a 3-minute conversation. It could be building out a foundation. It could be looking at different community initiatives. It could be supporting them, when they're figuring out brand partnerships. It's working with their agents, their managers, all of the above, really, to just help to keep everything in line. And we always say, like, if the player, like, off the court is not together, like, on the court, they're not going to be aligned as well. So, looking at how that kind of contributes to the overall team culture, like, we're really big on, like, culture moments around
Mm.
here. And so, like, whether it is organically or not organ whether it is kind of manufacturing time for them to be together, um, doing summer workouts in various places where they really, we're working on your craft, but we're also getting time to like just get to know who you are as people and
Mhm.
they're getting to know one another as people. That is something that's just missed out on in a lot of places. Like I feel like the number of teams that are like, oh, once the season's over, we'll see you in training camp. That's 4 months that you missed out on time for them to grow together. Like
Mhm.
this is very much a business of wins and losses, but so much of the wins and losses can really be affected by your overall culture. Like that is a significant piece of team success, in my opinion.
100%, back to intentionality, like, it's being intentional to build those relationships and also provide like, that doesn't mean you're scheduling out every minute of every hour of every day
No,
with
no, you
team
have to leave time
bonding.
for, like, the organic to
100%.
happen as well, but you when people don't know each other, sometimes you have to put them in rooms to help them get to know each other, and then they learn that, "Oh, this person likes video games," or, "This person really wants to go to the baseball and the hockey games," and, like, "I wanna go to the baseball and hockey games too," or, "I've never been to hockey because we don't even have that in my country in Africa, so, like, I wanna
Right.
come with it," and that and this person that someone else is gonna teach them about that, and so
Mhm.
those are those pivotal moments, those unsung hero moments that, like, people just forget about.
Yeah, that again, intentionality is exhausting, but it's so worth it. The payoff, the risk versus reward for being intentional in leadership and for providing intentional experiences is like it's not, there is no risk. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's exhausting, but the reward is just such a high payoff. So it's so cool. You mentioned player development, which made
Mhm.
me think of another Bloom Pod alum, Ed Jones, who just hosted the player development summit. So tell me a little bit.
Yes.
We'll do a little sidebar. Give Ed a little shout out to talk a little bit about the player development summit. I saw you and Alexander and several other folks were there. So tell me about that experience and just maybe some of the conversation that y'all had around player development.
Yeah, so the first thing I wanna say, one, I almost, wore my BTF shirt. Beyond the Field is the name of Ed's his group, his platform, the summit, like, all the things. He is really filling a gap. He
Mm,
is filling a gap in folks who are in team specific areas who do athlete development, because that's just not something that we have truly seen. Like I think, we come from the college space and we had N4A, under the NACDA umbrella, and you spend a lot of time with the student athlete development population. So this is catering to all 400 or 2,000 or however many student athletes you have, in your organization, but the athlete development space, it's a different it's a different vibe, right? You're not trying to create something that hopefully everyone can buy into. And like athlete development is much more individualistic, because it's a smaller group. that you're putting together, and then hopefully like you maybe separate them into cohorts and like you kind of grow, the freshman or the rookie, class together. And so Ed has hosted this summit the last 2 years. This is year three. The last 2 years were virtual, and I just remember, being on the Zoom calls till 1 in the morning, just networking and connecting with folks. And they're like, all right, y'all gotta get off and, come back tomorrow for, some more sessions. And to actually be in person and to meet people that you haven't ever met before, or folks that you just haven't seen in so long because so much has been virtual or Zoom based. It was really nice to connect, to break bread, to like he just did such a phenomenal job. Like he was so, again, the intentionality. He was intentional about, I think 75 to 80% of the people had never been to Kansas City before, me being one of them. So
Amazing.
he's like, all right, we're gonna go to the Negro League museum, which I didn't get to join because I had to leave for another engagement. But I took my kid to the Kansas City Royals game, which I'm not even a baseball fan like that, but it was something that he had been asking for since he knew we were gonna go. And we got to visit the Chiefs facility as well because we know Dr. Melissa White's there. And that just again, just being able to have very candid conversation about like maybe specific things that we're dealing with some of our athletes. I mean, I'm very close with Alexander Martin, who works for the Miami Dolphins, and even last year with one of the programs that we did down in Miami with our athletes, Alexander and Kayla Henderson, they actually brought
Mhm.
one of their rookies to the event as well. And so that was like kind of a pipe dream of mine. It's like, oh, maybe collaboratively we could do something, together. And like it ended up working out like that. But I feel like that idea was sparked on BTF last year when
Mm.
we were on there. The same way that my mentor program was something that I randomly threw out while we were on the summit last year. And then I had six of the ladies who were part of my first mentoring cohort who actually showed up they were volunteering. Some just went to be a part of the summit as well. And so he's hitting so many different like people and leagues and avenues. It's not just football related. Like there were folks who have touched a variety of different leagues, and to talk about NIL and how it's affecting us. Looking at folks who are doing things that are athlete specific, but maybe are not within an organization, but they're doing it more like third party to be able to
Mm.
touch like Tuberk Blaine, who has her athlete career lab. There are so many different folks who were there. And even the sponsors have actually become like really good friends of mine as well, like the Nunn family, Terrell and Huey Nunn with Access Granite. And they really offer like a concierge service. They're huge in the Houston area. But I've like sent folks down to them because I know that they're reputable, they're going to take care, and they understand the athlete population.
Mhm. It was so fun to see. I think this is another like, talking about intentionality, we're in this phase. I hope it's a phase. We're in this phase right now where folks, I think, are coming up and thinking like, "Why has it not happened for me yet? Like, why? This is like an overnight thing. I see all these people who are in the positions that I want." But this is taking time. This is years and
A
years and
lot of time.
years. Oh my
A
goodness, like
lot of time.
years and years of N4A, of NACDA, just as you said, and intentionally building those relationships and spending those organic moments so that when something like this happens, when somebody has this dream, all it takes now is phone calls because you put in the time to kind of know who people are. When Ed makes a call, you know that he's doing something that's going to be impactful. When Alexander makes a call, when you make a call to him, like, these are the things. Again, I'm hitting on intentionality so much, but it just everything that we're talking about is just making me think of how important that is, not only in individual leadership, but in what you're doing, I think in your career as well. So I wanna shift gears a little bit. Last time we talked, we also talked about this concept of relaxed hustling, which is something I think you mentioned you had gotten from an executive coaching course maybe that you were going through, a program you were going through. So have you still been employing the relaxed hustle? How has that maybe changed in the last couple of years? Is there a new concept that's happening now? Where are we at with that?
Oh, no, I'm still heavy on the relaxed hustling, probably heavier, than I was before. So yeah, so it was 2 years ago, May, yes, I think May 2023 is when we did the last podcast.
Mhm.
And since then, I've had a third son. I've been able to take part in the Canadian maternity leave system, which is different than the American system, where you actually, get a little more time off. Um, and I say it all the time. I felt like I was kind of forced into it because as an American, I wanted to just like, oh, I want to go back to work and I don't want to miss out on anything. And knowing that we had a new coach and like there was, a lot of just change and shift, you don't want to feel like you're missing out. However, I really needed to be reminded of the main thing and always being able to keep the main thing. And so that will always be my family, my first ministry, even the crazy and the chaos that, I live and work in every day and how our family operates, like that's still what is always most important for us. And like that's how we make every decision. So it was the first time while I was out on leave that I was able to put my kids in sports, like organized sports, and actually go and attend the practices and the stuff on the weekends. Like I just hadn't before. It was who was going to bring them, or I don't want my mom to always feel like she's the one that's Ubering everybody around to get to here, there, and the other. And so since then, like my kids are still doing that, even though I'm back and my day-to-day role with the regular travel and all the craziness that kind of comes with it, but we make it work because again we're intentional about the same way we pour into all of these folks that we work with and we lead, we have to do we have to do that and be intentional about that with our kids. And so it's not work life balance, it's work life integration. That maybe is my, I won't even say my newest term because that's something that I've been living and thriving on at least for the last 11 years since I became a mom. Um, and you can look at that even this week. We had a couple different speaking engagements and the summit, the Beyond the Field summit, and we took our kids with us. And one of them like took on just like a special like mom and me trip, and he really really enjoyed it. It was time for us to just get that opportunity as well. But I think it's cool for like the kids to see. It's cool for folks that I work with to see like I'm gonna go hard, right? I'm working hard. I'm putting things like all of me into it as I build out these programs, as we continue to try to be innovative and be 3 steps ahead of like what other folks are doing, and really building specific to our players and what they need to grow. But I'm also going to relax. And so if that means that I cannot attend X, Y, and Z, then I'm not going to attend that. Like we're gonna make means to do that. And that's something my specialist, her name's Ray Marie. She and I work amazing together because even when she has weddings or family obligations or different things to go to, it's like, okay, just communicate what you need. You need to go here. All right, cool. I'll cover this one. You cover this one. And it's not about like, oh, well, that one was 8 hours and the one you're going to is only 2 hours. Like it's not, it's about the coverage for the player. And it's also about making sure that we can do what we need for our families and to pour and fill our own cups because
Mm,
that is what's gonna make us better professionals as well.
100%. How do you maybe for folks who are trying to figure out how to navigate, like, they want to one of the things I always say as far as a weakness is I have the fear of missing out, like, I wanna say yes to everything and add everything to my plate, so, in return, that also makes me a very efficient person, like, that's the thing I have to focus on because I wanna do all the things, but for folks who maybe are in that space and who are wanting to say yes more, what advice would you give to them on like, what to say yes to versus what to say no? How do you sort through those things? Because everything seems like a great opportunity at some point, but not all of them are the best opportunity for you as an individual, and so maybe talk through your process of how you figure out what's what.
It's really figuring out your priorities, and obviously priorities change, they shift, even during various points of the season for me. Like I'm not gonna take speaking engagements in the middle of the season unless I am legitimately already in that city. If it requires me to travel and I've already been on the road for 2 weeks away from my kids, like, I'm probably not gonna go unless it's something that I'm taking my entire family and we're gonna make, as a trip opportunity. So, it's leveling like, being lining out those priorities and being clear and then sticking to them.
Mm,
Because sometimes it's like, oh, well, I can get this money, or I can get in front of this person, or I can do this. All money ain't good money, and all connections ain't good connections.
mm,
So what's important to you? And stop being afraid to say no.
yeah.
Y'all, stuff will circle the block for you. If it's meant for you, it's gonna come back for you every time. So the timing of right now doesn't always have to be right now. And
Mm,
it's okay to say no. Give yourself the breathing room to just rest, to relax. Relax, hustle. You can hustle later. Relax now.
yep, yep. That's the that's the thing of it, right? Is there's 2 parts there, the relaxing and the hustling. They go together, but
Two things can be true. Two
yeah.
things can be true.
That's exactly right. They seem like they're, opposing things, but they go together and they can be separate. So tell me about we've talked a little bit about, kind of being a woman in sports. Do you think with the rise of, we talked about the attention that's kinda happening with the women's leagues right now, this media investment and some of these, more in the spotlight than it certainly has been in recent years. What shifts, if any, have you seen for women who want to work in sports?
I definitely feel like there are more doors open. I also feel like because there are more women who have integrated into this space, then now you see more women who are moving into leadership areas.
Mm,
Because that's the thing, like you're not going to move into leadership if you're not here.
mhm.
And as many men that we see that might come from a corporate space and then move over to the sports space, that's not gonna be the case for women in a lot of regards. Periodically, you'll see it. But if you are here in the space, then it provides more opportunity for you to continue to grow. So because you're seeing more women who are coaching, more women who are in scouting, you're seeing more who are, in the analytics space. You're seeing that continue to rise and grow. I think you've always seen women who were in the operations administration, type role. And even in the same in like medical, there are several like NBA teams who have like their head of medical is a woman,
Mm,
and it's not because they went and got her from somewhere else. It's probably because she's been built into the system, whether it was within that specific role, or maybe it was like she worked on various teams, and so she has like a more vast understanding of the landscape. So there definitely are, like, is it moving as fast? No. Is it as equal as it needs to be? No. Will it ever be equal? Who knows? But the fact that women's sports are continuing to grow will open more opportunities for women to go into support on that side as well. We can't see the future. We really can just lean into where we are right now. And it's like to be where our feet are and to be great and to do the work. Because when you do the work, people will find you every time.
I love that. Okay, shifting into to kind of the final piece here. I wanna know, how are you defining success in this season of life right now?
Says me like thriving in joy.
Mm,
It's I want to wake up and be excited about going to work. And then when I come home, I want to be excited about coming home. I want to bask in the little things of getting to like take walks with my kids, and like the amount of videos and things that are in my phone of just like the simple everyday moments. Like that, I think right now is so pivotal to success
mm,
for me in life. And this is as someone who was always a go, 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 get the next job, get the next title, elevate, do this. Like, have I ascended to where, I feel like I'm going to be? I don't know. Um, is there more? Probably. But where I am right now, I'm happy with where I am. I'm thriving where I am. And I also know that like opportunities aren't always convenient. So I could get a call tomorrow. It could be 3 years from now. It could be, who knows? Um, but I'm okay. I'm always okay to like be open to the idea of change. But for where I am right now, it's simply being present in the moment.
I love it. Okay, if you could get some hang time with any woman in sports, who would it be and why?
Um, if I could get hang time with any woman in sports, it would I really, really and and this probably isn't fair because I mean I have her number in my phone, but I really like I just like I really admire Swing Cash.
Mm.
I really do. You know, I like love what she did for the game, like actually in the game of basketball, but then also as a woman who has moved like into a leadership space, like that is just super dope. And as a black woman and as a black mom and like who continues to like elevate and grow, I know she's going to continue to make waves and impact across the league and maybe other leagues as well.
I want to say 2 things in response to that. Number 1, I think you're the first guest who has prefaced the hang time request with, "I mean, I have her I could hang out." Like, I have her number. That's a first for the show. The other thing I wanted to say is Swin Cash, much like I mentioned this, I think it was the second episode that we did, with Camber Clements. She mentioned Cheryl Swoops, and I'm like, of athletes who have names that are so fitting for the sport that like Cheryl Swoops, of course, is a basketball player, but Swin Cash, to say like, of course, you're an athlete and all the things. So I love it. That's an excellent one. Okay, the last piece. Where can listeners follow along, connect, see what you're doing? All the above.
You can follow me on all the platforms at Mrs. MRS Coach Lacey, Lacee, E's. Yeah, I'm all over the place. LinkedIn. I'll say this: if you get on LinkedIn, I'm averaging about 3 to 5 business months on response time, so that might not be the way to find me.
Business months. I love it.
I'm just saying, I like to preface, you know, with that because at one point, so you remember Alexander? Alexander does all the job repostings on there, and so when he goes into training camp, I take over job reposting. So
Mm.
we share responsibilities for like little piece of the time of the year, and I would, you know, I repost. I like very diligent about it. I have my like alerts set every day to make sure that I'm going in and doing it, and of course, it drives a lot more action to your page. Um, which is fine. But then I started my mentoring program at the end of the year, or the I should say the start of the year in January. So my focus was on them, and it's hard to take additional coffee chats and this that, and the other. That's one of the reasons why I started the mentoring program is because it's like there's only one me, and I just don't have enough time to always do this. On top of the fact that like, please, this is my pro tip for folks if you're requesting a coffee chat, don't ask them a question you can find on LinkedIn or anywhere or any podcast that they've done. Like, ask them something that is different and unique. And also tell them about you because how can we help and serve you if I spent 30 minutes talking about myself?
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
So I kind of was dodging LinkedIn for a while. So
3
three
to
to five
5
business
3
months.
to 5 business months worth of dodging. Yeah. All right, well, Dr. LCJ, Dr. Lacey, thank you so much for taking the time to catch up, and thank you for suggesting, let's just catch up. Let's not repost
Yes.
the other episodes.
Let's make it work.
That's right, this has been fun. We had a couple of snafus this week, but we got it done, and so I'm
We're
glad to
here.
that's right,
It's done.
we did it.
It's ready.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your crazy busy schedule to join us and catch up. It's been great.
Thank you for having me, Taylor.
You are very welcome. All right, we will see you back in a couple of weeks. Until then, let's get some hang time.